How are you, Josh?
Oh, another week.
Another week.
Another week of going. No, don't move this.
I moved my chair already. We're both fine. I gotta turn this on mute.
This is what happens when your whole podcast crew is just you and you.
What are you talking about? We got Joey, we got James, we got Samantha back there.
We have our lighting person.
Yeah.
We have our 3 film guys.
Makeup, can't forget.
Did you hit the audio thing?
I did.
So you're a little wobbly over there.
Oh boy. Yeah, we're recording.
This is only like the fifth episode we recorded, and we're still like, there's no consistency of what we're doing.
Everything's different each time. That's all right. At least we're staying on the same side. That would be weird. You ever switch sides of the bed with your wife?
Yes.
Oh, what a psycho. Like regularly? Do you willy-nilly just decide who's on whose side?
No, I mean, it has
You have a side.
Yeah, I have a side now because I sleep on my right side.
But you test it out?
Yeah. Okay, so the only time we switched before was because the air conditioner blew right on her, and she hates air, and I love to be like froze. So we switched that one time. And then I don't know what happened. After a few months, we were like, "Yeah, let's switch back."
This ain't working.
Right. You know what? Maybe I'm Oh, there we go. Now
You always look taller than me on the podcast. I mean, you are taller than me, but not by that much.
No, this is like more comfortable too. I felt like I was on top of the world. But yeah, So now it's pretty much the same thing because when I sleep, I like to sleep on my right side with my right arm underneath the pillow.
Underneath her pillow?
Well, sometimes when I roll over, I shove my arm underneath her pillow. Like that, whichever side I'm laying on, my arm has to be out underneath my head. So,
wow.
For most of the time now, I sleep on my right side, but our nightstand is there with like my water bottles, my glasses, everything.
Yeah.
So when I have a bad dream or I act weird during the night, it'll wake us up because I'll just fucking knock everything off of the nightstand. So the water bottle will end up on the floor.
The Hulk, you just wake up in it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So, yeah.
You seen those mattresses that have a channel for your arm?
Oh, I've seen that lately, the new pillow. There's a new
pillow and
too.
there's a whole mattress you could buy for it where the mattress has a channel for your arm to go in.
Well, I've seen there's a pillow that she could use that has a hole in it. So I have to find the hole, but it goes in underneath her pillow.
So many things I could say.
Or she'll scoot down now at nighttime and leave me a gap for my arm.
She's down by the foot of the
bed. I don't know what it is. Like, I have to have, like, my arm out underneath me.
Sounds terrible sleeping in the bed with you.
And we have a queen bed. Do y'all have a queen or king?
A queen, but every year I'm like, we're getting a king. We're going to do it. And we just never do. We have, we should get a new mattress, but nah.
It's also expensive. The sleep.
Well, the box and the beds aren't that expensive these days, but we just haven't done it. Our last place, I don't think we would have got a king up there. Now we have the space for it, but I just haven't done it yet.
It's a process. You got to find the bed.
Every time we're at a hotel, though, and we get a king, we're like, oh, so much room.
It's so great. Our daughter, she's 7. She sleeps with us like once a week. That's like her thing. Like it's like every Thursday. But we have noticed we're like, oh man, if we had a king, like all of us would have more room,
more space.
But then when we go to a hotel, she's still on top of one of us.
Yeah.
Even with a king. So
yeah, she's got to be right there.
Hotel, I don't get why every time we go to a hotel, everything just seems perfect. For the most part. Like, it's taken me a while. I finally found a pillow, but I've been through probably 5 or 6 pillows in the last couple of years. And then my wife found a pillow she liked, and I really liked it, so I would try to steal it. And then, like 2 weeks ago, she surprised me with it, and it's been the most comfortable pillow that's been in comparison. Wow. But you were talking about mattresses, and I would say at the beginning of summer, we found a mattress through a friend. It was like $200 off Amazon,
Mhm.
and when it shows up in a box.
Yeah.
So you take it out of the box, it sets and it forms for 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
And then you can put it on. Now, the mattress itself is pretty comfy, but the thing with it is when you lay in a spot, it forms around you.
It's very soft foam.
So when my wife lays down and it forms around her, it's like this little hole that just comes back up. Me, on the other hand, at 280 pounds, when I lay there, it forms a fucking canyon. So
You can't get out.
I'm saying yes. No, that's seriously how it is. So it deepens me so much in this hole that when I got to get up at night to pee, I have to take my right leg and kick
Curl it.
myself up out of the hole. And when my daughter sleeps with us,
she falls into the canyon with you.
when she rolls over, if she gets near my hole, she falls down into my hole next to me. So
Daddy, I can't breathe.
yeah, so she is down, and it creates, like, when I get up, my wife's like, oh my God, look, like, it is just like probably a 3-4 inch dip.
Wow.
And like, it's fast though. By the time I come back from the bathroom, it's came back up again.
Yeah.
But yeah, like within a matter of minutes, like it just formulates to your body, and my side is just a big hole. And even when I want to roll over out of that, like I have to stay in my hole because it's such an effort to get out of my hole just to move that 2 inches to create another hole.
You just talk yourself back to sleep. You're like, fuck it.
So, I mean, I rate it like 6, 7 out of 10. Like, it's nice and the price is good, but it's that damn hole.
I mean, yeah, for a couple $100. I remember spending $3,000 on a mattress one time before those bed and boxes were a thing. You know?
I'm kind of scared that we're off camera. Do you think we're on camera?
I think we got it.
Maybe if I...
Ooh, closely.
Man, you really have to jump up. You can't scoot it. You gotta jump. I'll fucking pinch my finger, too.
We don't have any Band-Aids at the podcast.
So one thing I've been thinking about lately is I've been watching on the news, and I've had this conversation with some people, is what mind blows me, and it's because I've been seeing it on TikTok, of how normalized over in other countries now, and it has been normalized, but now with TikTok, social media, people are recording more, and like I just watched a video where people were walking down the streets, and I think it was Ukraine, where Israel, I think it was Israel. People were walking down the street like normal, and a bomb just comes out of nowhere, hits the bottom of an apartment complex, probably like 15 stories, and like directly hits below it, and the whole apartment complex falls down, and people are like, oh shit, another bomb just destroyed.
Jesus.
Like, it's so weird to me how normalized that is, that people are just out. It's like being down in DC a day and going through the museums, and
It's
you're like
DC.
a bomb just came
Yeah.
and hit a sky rise, and let's just go into the next museum.
I think you'd have to normalize it because you couldn't live in the fear that we would have for a prolonged period of time.
Right.
You couldn't live like that for years.
So
I mean, these people, some of those people in the Middle East have been dealing with that sort of stuff for,
yeah,
their whole lives.
and that's what I say. Like, yeah, it's been going on forever, but now with social media,
Yeah. Now we get to see it, right?
Yeah.
It is. That's spoken for.
But that's the crazy part too, is people are just videoing. Like, they're on their apartment complex, 5 and 6 stories up, and they're just like, hey, look at this parade of 50 bombs coming in at nighttime, just destroying us like 10 miles away.
Yeah. I have a friend who's from Iran, and he said when he was a kid, they would, turn off all the lights and in the evening and sit in the middle of the house, and they would just sit there through explosions. And he said he was like 6 and 7, and there'd be like explosions and shaking buildings, and he just would be playing with his toys in the middle of the hallway because that was like normal.
I mean, to us, like, a tornado is scary. Like, you have a tornado warning, and it pops up on your phone, and it's like, get into the middle of your house, but you know it's coming. But I feel like the way these countries are going back and forth, there's just a warning that says, hey, we're going at war for the next year, 2 years. Just be prepared at any time.
At any time. Yeah.
What a scary process.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that is great about the U.S. is, like, we haven't had, true conflict here outside of our own citizens in a long time.
Right.
I
mean, 9/11, like a terrorist attack on us is like 9/11 taking over airplanes, crashing into, and of course it did a lot of damage, but not like 20 bombs coming in at one time into New York City.
Yeah, very different experience for everybody, for sure.
Like the destruction of that compared to taking down the Twin Towers, like, is nothing. Can you imagine, like, New York City is so cramped and there's 20 things on each block, how much devastation 5 bombs like that could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one thing that has just been on the news, and it's crazy to me that other countries, even us, how we sit back and we're not involved, but we feed money and feed ammunition and feed artillery to watch 2 other countries just slay each other. Like, it's such gruesome. Like, I can't, like, we're not involved in it, and thank goodness. But at the same time, like, we're saying, here, take this so you can destroy as many bodies and property as you can.
Yeah, we're definitely involved. We're just not feeling it
Feet on
personally
the ground.
here. Yeah. But, yeah, maybe human nature will change when and if we discover alien life.
Or maybe aliens
people will be
are
like,
involved.
oh, we all have to join together to
I
fight a new
feel like
enemy.
that's what it's going to take. I mean, I haven't been keeping up on it as much. When the Ukraine and Russia thing started, I was watching it daily. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like full-blown war. And then it kind of just became a normalization. Like, okay, now Ukraine and Russia are however long in, and I haven't heard like the death toll and stuff for a while, but like every day it's just deaths and deaths and deaths of civilians, of people in the army and military, and
perpetual.
Like, I really don't know what even's going to be left. I mean, I know there's been some things happened in Russia, some bombs that hit, but nothing like that's happening in Ukraine. It seems like all the war is there. So even after it's over, no matter what side comes out on top, I just feel like Ukraine's going to be 3/4 of the way gone. So I don't even understand what you're fighting for at this point. Like, it's going to have to be rebuilt almost completely by the time you get done.
I mean, I think you would feel differently if, like, Russia was invading here.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they destroyed all of, New York, you'd still be like, well, I don't want Russia to own the United States.
Right.
That doesn't feel right. You'd probably feel like, there's some sense of homeland that is different and separate from the physical property beings, like the restaurants. I know all that stuff makes up the culture, but I think, even if you evaporate all that stuff, you probably still feel some sort of connection to, like, the physical land and the space and the, the type of government or the people or whatever.
The amount of money, you think about the amount of money put in on both sides for the artillery and the bombs and what they're paying soldiers, military, and if something like that happened to New York City, like, you're talking billions of dollars to rebuild something like that. Not even what you have into the war already.
Yeah.
Like, that is, like, mind-blowing of what it's going to take. If it stopped right now and they were like, okay, we're done, Ukraine, you're staying in Ukraine, Russia's not going to bother you anymore, like, the time and the money that it would take to rebuild those parts of Ukraine is insane.
Yeah, no doubt.
Not to mention, like, the money that we've given other countries to give them. And now, I even think that I read that North Carolina is sending stuff. North Korea is sending like thousands of soldiers over to Russia because they're losing so many. Like,
I saw that. Yeah.
Like, it's just so weird. It's like, okay, we lost another 1,000 people from our community. Now we got to bring in more people from other communities to.
Yeah, man, it's wild. Although that's where capitalism kind of wins, right? Like, if New York City was destroyed, the people who currently own those buildings and stuff and those properties would definitely be financially burdened by that. But then new people would come in and buy that land for scraps, demolish whatever's left, and rebuild, and they would now have they would now have the ability to prosper. So, like, capitalism more effectively, I think, recovers than a society where maybe everything is paid for by the government, because that would be it's too big of a toll for the government to pay out, I think.
So, for example, if you lived in New York City and you worked there and 3/4 of it was destroyed due to war, and you survived, you would have to get out. You would go somewhere, you would have to find a new job, and then everything would rebuild, and then a whole new population would come back in, searching for these jobs and trying to fill back up your apartment complexes.
Right.
What a fucking process! Like, over something like craziness.
Yeah. And especially when you consider a lot of these wars, not so much Russia and Ukraine, but a lot of these wars are fought over religion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just different belief systems. Rather than, like, I even understand more so a war that's fought over resources or money or, whatever, than as compared to wars that are fought over religion.
I was just had a conversation, and I don't know how true this is, and I'm going to look it up myself, but I've heard through the grapevine from a guy that is from Germany. He lives here, and that apparently Germany now is like making all of their male citizens, no matter what you do, join the military just to be joined in the military with everything going on. Like, that's apparently how it used to be.
Yeah.
And I want to look into it more. I just found this out yesterday, so again,
a lot of countries have that.
Like, where
Switzerland has that.
Oh, like where everybody has to be like part
Denmark, of... there's a lot of European countries that have that. And a lot of it's just, South Korea has that. A lot of it's just something you do for tradition, and you learn obedience, and you learn these skills, and then you do a few years and you're on bon voyage. It's not like they're going to, it's not a draft in the sense that they're putting you into war. But yeah, you're mandated to go in and serve your country. And sometimes it's not only men, sometimes men and women.
So if something ever big happened, you wouldn't even have to do a draft. Like, hey, we could just pick whoever we want because everybody is already in our military.
Or at least they have some training. Like, any male would then have, some level of training. We were considering moving out of the country for a while there, and I was looking up countries that we might go to that have, allow for citizenship or dual citizenship. And in some places, even if you migrate to that country, or immigrate into that country rather, you have to join their military. So if you become a citizen, I think it was Denmark might have been an example, but I can't remember. But if you become a citizen in some of these countries, as long as you're under 35 or whatever their age cap is, you would have to join at that point. And I was like, dude, I cannot imagine my fat ass going to the fucking military right now. Like, are you kidding? I'm so out of shape. Like, I can't run. I'm not doing boot camp right now. What the fuck are you talking about?
I would say that their restrictions to be in it are a lot less health-wise. They're just we don't care what you look like. Or
if you're accepting everybody or making everybody go, you have to probably accept a wide range of whatever's. But yeah,
you just won't be on the front line running fast.
They'll be like, yeah, we'll put this kid behind the computer. He's gonna operate a drone. Yeah.
So that's one thing is, have you ever, this could just be me. So at nighttime, when I'm laying in bed, things when so everybody goes to sleep before me. I stay up like 2 hours later and playing on my phone, watching sports, looking at TikTok, and sometimes at like 11 o'clock at night, some idiot will be out shooting fireworks, and then for just that split second, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening out there? And then I have to realize like it's fireworks. Or I'm sitting there and an airplane's going over low.
Oh, totally.
And I'm like, why does that sound so loud tonight? Like, why does that sound so loud?
Is it crashing? Is it a fighter jet?
Like shit like that. And then we have a train that goes by us, and from the distance you can hear forever away. And then as it gets closer, I'm like, listen, I'm like, oh, okay, it's a train.
I get that all the time too. I mean, every time there's like a low helicopter, a low plane, a new sound outside in the middle of the night, yeah. I mean, even, my neighbors you don't really hear too often, but sometimes they'll be yelling at night, and I'll hear that. I'm like, what's that? I think there's something evolutionary about it, like, the caveman stays up late at night to protect the cave. So we're like more hyper aware of the unknown and like potential threat. Like during the day, I don't even get that.
No.
During the day, if there's a low-flying plane, I'm like, oh.
It's just at nighttime when it's dark and you're like down for the night, and I'm like, oh shit, is somebody evading us? Like why is this airplane sound so too low?
Yeah.
And then you hear it gets louder, and then I can start to hear fade away. I'm like, okay, that one's not going to hit the house with anything. But that's where it becomes, it's not normal for us, so those things bother us.
Yeah. I think any I mean, you were talking about tornadoes before. I'm sure that's even some people who are in active war zones, if they saw or heard a tornado, they would react the way that we would react, because that's not the norm. It's not like these people are immune to all sense of threat. If we put a lion in Ukraine, I'm sure they would be worried about the lion. But
when it comes to like,
should send lions to war, by the way. That'd be smart.
Lions?
Just put a bunch of lions out in the front line.
Well, that's true. I mean, do we?
Peter's going to be honest for this one.
Like, I mean, gladiator times they were used a lot. I mean,
or
when they fought at Colosseums, like tigers and lions like popped out of the.
Or like from the movie 300 with Sparta, and they're on elephants and shit.
Oh yeah, and they're like falling off the side of cliffs because they're like fighting on mountains, and animals were used a lot for that kind of war. Horses
aren't threatening though, or scary.
No, but if you're on a horse and he falls down on top of you,
no, that's no good. That's no bueno.
Yeah, I find everybody.
But if you were coming to like a battle and there's some motherfucker on an elephant, you're like, fuck. That's scary. Or a lion's charging your underground hole.
Can you imagine though, like back in the day when they were using elephants, they didn't have like guns and stuff. They were just like throwing spears off and arrowing. Now you come in with like a machine gun on top of an elephant. Like, oh man, I have times.
They probably can't take too many bullets though. That's probably the problem. A tank's a little bit more effective.
Yeah, Peter would be like, all right, we need to evaluate all wars.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care about killing humans, but let's not use the animals.
No animals in war.
But I am not afraid to admit it that at nighttime, like the same noises that happen during the day in my house at nighttime get me like
the heebies.
Like a dog. Like when I hear a noise, like my head's like turning, like, what was that? And I've made it like the steps that go up to our second story, they crackle. So I'm like, somebody's in the house. Like I should be able to know because every step crackles.
You memorize the creaks of the house.
Yeah, like what makes sounds and things like that.
I like the doors in our house are not quiet. So like if somebody opens and closes the door, I'll hear it. There's no way I'm not going to hear them come into the door, or if they break a window. So like I always think about that. Like now there's probably not anyone here.
What do you think about locking doors? Like, we make sure we lock doors, but if somebody wanted to get in your house, you think somebody could get in your house even with the doors locked?
1,000%. You ever heard of a bump key?
No.
It's basically like almost kind of like a blank key, and it's specially designed so that when you put it into most home doors, and you tap it with like a soft mallet a few times,
Right.
it shakes the rockers in a way where it will unlock your door. And so like in most cases, like, you know, you've seen lock picks and they're like picking, it takes like a few minutes. If you have a bump key, like in 5 seconds, you can get into like 80% of doors.
That's nice to know.
Yeah. So like locks are just made up. Now deadbolt's a little different, but it's still like locks are mostly for ourselves. Like it's mostly just a peace of mind thing, but they're certainly not impenetrable.
I mean, I think about it a lot, but like, who the hell wants to get in my house to kill me? I haven't done anything to anybody that makes someone like. If you get in my house, I'm gonna shit my pants first off if I don't know you're in there. Like if you creep up on me, but if there's anything in my house, you don't have to kill me for it. Like just take it.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing in there that's worth a value of me fighting for. Wear a mask so I can't see and know who you are, so we don't have to worry about that. I'm not gonna pull it off. But if you want my TV, take my TV. If you want cash, good luck. I don't really keep cash in my house. Like, why would you come in my house? And in my mind, like, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's that noise? Is somebody in here? Like, somebody wants to kill me? But why? Why would somebody want to kill me?
Do you have a little thing in the back of your mind, though, where you kind of wish it would happen just so you could blow someone's face off?
I thought about that. Like, I mean, I've prepared myself, like, oh, well.
I always think exactly what I'm going to do.
I'm going to lay on the floor with my gun. And,
prone. You're going prone. Okay.
Yeah, and once I see him, like, I'm just going to shoot till it's done. And then I'm like, but what if it's somebody that's playing a prank on me and broke into my house?
They don't have any toes now.
That's their problem.
I got 2 good stories for you. One, I had this kind of uncle-ish sort of figure growing up. Mm-hmm. He was from Egypt. He was my dad's friend. And he owned a place in the city in where I'm from, and it was not a great neighborhood. So he owned a little convenience store, and it was not a great neighborhood. And so he always had security, and he had, you know, like locks and alarms and all that shit. He lived upstairs from the joint. So one night he hears someone break in, and, you know, it's a convenience store, so there's some stuff to steal, but not anything like super high value. But, you know, he was worried because it's also his house, where he does keep his cash because he was Egyptian and didn't believe in bank accounts and stuff, right? So, yeah, he went downstairs, and needless to say, this guy didn't survive the encounter. He broke in, was trying to steal stuff, and he didn't make it out. And my uncle always talks about that experience as a grand old time. Like he's like, yeah, man, I just his brains were everywhere and everything. I was like, Jesus, like he's excited about that. That's a different level, I think, but like for me, I'm not like excited to murder somebody, but if someone's in my house, I'm feeling like, man, I'm gonna protect myself, and like they're not gonna make it out. Like that's my mindset.
Yeah.
I put my life on the line for it.
So that, like you say, it's like a thing you think about and the reaction. So if I was at the top of my steps and somebody was down below, I shot them, they were down, like, would I be like, oh my God, I just killed somebody or whatever? And then on the steps would be like, take that, bitch. Like, that's what you get for being in my house.
It's
like,
hard to say, right? Like, I think you would be so high adrenaline. I mean, even if when you go to a range and fire a gun, if you don't do it regularly, you have adrenaline response to that. The loudness, the feeling, the recoil, all that stuff, the smell. I think all that would be heightened if you're also protecting your family.
Oh, and in your house, the loudness of it. Just
because you don't
noise.
have ear protection, too. Like, your ears are going to be...
I always afraid, too, if I'm going to have a heart attack because I'm going to be so, like, hyped up.
I always think I'm going to trip and fall. So when I plan out my path, I'm like, oh, remember, there's a box there. Like, because I can just imagine my clumsy ass getting to my safe or something and falling.
Oh, man, it's such a... I can imagine, like, people in the military and somebody that has to kill for the first time, cops, like, that has to play such a role.
Nobody sane likes it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are some, like...
Nobody's sane.
Nobody's saying they like it, but in their head somewhere like.
But you might justify it. You might not lose sleep over it, and that I think is okay. Like my uncle guy figure. He's not. I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think he like would want to go kill people. but he was glad to protect his family.
Right.
And that this guy was invading him, and he felt justified, and he still feels justified in his action.
Oh, and I'm sure.
And nobody ever went in there again to try to break in after that, by the way.
Well, I guess not. Once that gets out, like,
Yeah.
Mr. So-and-so, blow your head off.
Blew his
Like,
head off.
literally,
Yeah.
it happened. And even if he feels like from a, I want to say like a warrior standpoint, like you feel like a warrior, you've protected what's owed by you, and you've
Your
done
family.
what you have to do.
Yeah.
And he feels no, like there's nothing, what's the
Remorse?
word? Remorse from it, because he did what he had to do.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it replays in his mind.
I'm sure.
All the time of seeing that scene. And
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's trauma associated with it to some extent. Again, any normal person would probably have some sort of trauma with it. And even this, soldiers who had to do it a lot, all the time. Stuff like that. Now, here's another story. One time, I lived in an apartment with two other buddies, and I had a shotgun and a couple other firearms in the house that were in a safe. But my buddies knew, like, if something were to go wrong, we would, ask Sean, because, Sean's got the guns.
Right.
They did not. So it was 1 a.m. My buddy walks into my room. He's like, yo, someone's in the house. I'm like, go away, dude. Stop. And he's like, no, dude, someone came in. Now, our apartment was the place where everyone would come to crash. So, it was not unusual that one of our buddies would just be sleeping on our couch. Almost every night. In fact, there was a dude who lived in our apartment on the couch for 3 months. So our place was that place.
You're very open door policy.
We did. And sometimes we didn't lock the door. So this is one of those nights. And we weren't sure who it was. We weren't sure if it was a buddy or not. So I didn't want to just, go down there blasting. But I got my shotgun. It was loaded up. I cocked it, standing at the top of the stairs. My buddy, feeling cocky because he's got me, is sitting there with his baseball bat. He's excited to go down the stairs. And we walked down a few stairs. I'm like, if anyone's there, tell me who you are. And nobody said anything. So we get down the bottom of the stairs, and there's somebody asleep at my kitchen table. Just sleeping at the table. And I didn't know who it was at first because it's just all hair. And so I was like, is this somebody we know? Just a weird scene, right? They weren't posing a threat. But I was like, yo, wake up. We're down the hall. And this person who I've never met, opens his eyes. He sees me with a shotgun and my buddy with a baseball bat. And he's clearly drunk. He walked into the wrong house. And he wakes up, he's like, whoa, what's going on? And we're like, you're in our house, get the fuck out of here. He's like, all right. He stumbles away. Never came back. But that guy probably had a hell of a story for his buddies.
And there's some people that are trigger happy that wouldn't even ask that question. They just see somebody sitting there, poof. Oh, it's Johnny from up the street. He had the wrong house. Whoops.
Yeah, shouldn't have been here. Yeah, in New York, you don't have that law, what's called castle or domain law or something. But in West Virginia, basically, if someone's on your property and they're not supposed to be, you have the right to do whatever means to protect yourselves.
Right.
In New York, they have to actually pose a physical threat to you, a life-threatening threat for you to do anything like that. So.
Yeah, here, I think it's you cannot shoot somebody if they're running away from you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, if they get there and they have 4 or 5 shots in their back and they're facing your door, they came up to you and were trying to break in your door and they start running away and you shoot them in your yard running away, that's not a good thing.
Not good.
Yeah.
So if you're going to break into people's houses in West Virginia, do it backwards.
That's a good point.
Just walk in backwards.
Yeah.
Can't shoot me.
It's everything about that. Until you get into that situation, man, I can't just imagine. I would do it because my adrenaline would take over, but at the same time, I can't tell you that I'm not going to be sitting there shaking that.
Oh, yeah. I'm scared.
The noises that it's going to make is, especially if you have kids, they're going to be screaming and hollering. I just don't want to go through that because, it's going to be trauma for everybody, whether at the end it protects you, protects your family, and that person's dead. But everything surrounding that, like you said, you're gonna smell the gunpowder. You're gonna like
Your ears are just gonna be ringing. You ever shoot gun without ear pro on?
yeah.
I did it once, and it's just like.
But inside like a hallway in your house, that
that
would
was
be
outside.
nuts.
Inside, you'd be tinnitus for sure. It would be rough. I hope we don't have to do that. But anyway, locking doors, I do it, but I think it's really mostly peace of mind for yourself. Unless the only people who it really prevents from getting in are people who are just jiggling doorknobs or like amateurs.
Right.
Or some kids. Like some idiot kid might come to my door and jiggle it, and if it's open, they might walk in. But a real thief or someone who actually wanted to come in and do something bad would be able to get through any lock that we have on our doors.
Right.
Digital ones are super vulnerable, like those digital keypads.
That's what we have.
They're super vulnerable most of the time, like to cyber attacks as well as physical attacks. A lot of times the physical lock on those is really shit. Like the actual mechanism is shitty.
It's more convenience to the
because all the money's wrapped up in the technology. Yeah. So there's a guy on Instagram who just breaks in, like, just to show people, breaks locks, and he does a lot of like padlocks, and he picks a lot of them. And it'll be funny. The video will start with like a commercial from the manufacturer of a new lock, and they'll be like, "The toughest lock we've ever made. You can't pick it. It's like pick-proof locks." And like 80% of the time, the ones that boast like how secure they are, he'll break into them by just like hitting them with another one, like just smashing two together, and the lock will open. Or like he's got some where he'll pick it in like a second, like, and it's open.
Well, I feel like you could even take like a crowbar and just put it on that pad and just hit it and break it off.
So many of them are just crap.
I mean, I've heard and read, like, most of the time, the people that break into your house are people that know you and know what you have, and are a huge percentage of drug addicts, like drug addicts in a family that are just, like, looking for shit to pawn. Like, I mean, I don't think people are, like, out to just break in a house to kill you in your sleep. Like, I think that is a very, very small percentage.
Yeah, that's most of the time the real awful things that we hear about here, like in terms of crime, are really rare. I mean, we talked about where I'm from. Rochester has a lot of crime and stuff, but as I said before, it's like a lot of it's wrapped up in gang violence, drugs, and whatnot. So if you're not involved in that lifestyle, like you're a lot less likely to be a victim. I think when you look at the whole thing, like, and you say, "Oh, the crime rate is X," it's really skewed towards people who are part of that lifestyle.
Right.
And it's really rare when it affects someone who's not.
One thing I've always heard too is, like, if you own a gun and you're out in public and you carry, when you pull a gun in a situation, like, it's not, you shouldn't just pull it for show. You got to pull it to be ready to use, because that other person,
if you just pull it to scare someone, it's brandishing. It's a federal crime.
Right. Or if somebody else has a gun and you pull yours, like, you got to be prepared to use it, because once you pull it, that amps the situation of the other person that has the gun. So, like, you just can't pull it to say, "Hey, I have a gun too."
You're not
because
showing
you don't know.
The only time you're whipping that out is to kill someone, and you're not even going to try to wound them. Like, that's stupid if you do anything other than just try to eliminate it. So you're only carrying it for if literally someone else is going to cause you life-threatening harm.
And that's where it comes back to the beginning of the wars going on. Like, when they're taught, like, anything that's not on our side that moves, you kill. Like, there's no second guessing. Like, I don't think they're out there, and that's where their kids, families getting caught in crossfires and everything else, because if Johnny is out there and he's part of their military and he's shooting at you, you're not going to wait for Susie and little Timmy to cross the road. You're just shooting back, and if they get caught in the middle, they're caught in the middle.
Yeah, what we didn't know in the Middle East was who was a military target, because a lot of like the Taliban's tactics was to involve children into the war.
How nasty is that? Like, how crazy and disturbing is it that these people are willing to send out, like, women and children to feed?
They only did it because they knew that was our vulnerability, though. Like,
right.
Military tactic wise, like, remove the humility of it, or the lack of humility out of it, and they knew that we wouldn't shoot on women and children targets, and that we were after military-aged men, so like 18-plus-year-old men. So if you involve someone who is not that, they're gonna slip right through the cracks.
Right.
So you want to destroy your target, you do it. Use their weakness. Not every military is like that, though. I mean,
No.
I don't know what Russia and Ukraine's like ethics or whatever for the engagement is, but they may not be like that.
I mean, some of those places are crazy that they're willing to send like little kids out to act like, hey, we need help, and those kids know.
Oh yeah.
Like I think it's such a brainwash. Also, that
brainwashed
in West Virginia. That they're willing to send those kids out to feed in people, and then somebody else is holding a crappy cell phone that's hitting the button and blowing that kid up and around everybody. It's just like, but I think that comes into like their whole religion too. Like they talk people into like, you're not doing it for just their country, you're doing it for, what is it, Allah or something. They do.
Catholics fought their own set of wars that were about fully about religion, and they used some fucked up tactics then too. And I think people are easily persuaded by the afterlife, and that's in like what promises you'll have, and like if this life doesn't matter and what really matters is the afterlife, then what would you be willing to do to secure your spot?
And in places North Korea, I'm sure that
they don't even have religion.
Yeah,
there's no religion there.
They don't have anything.
It's the king.
Their religion is Kim Jong.
That's it. And it's to the point where like if your house, I think in every room has to have a picture of him.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and like if it's dusty, if the photo is dusty and an inspector comes by and the photo of the king is dusty, they literally send you to camp or murder your family.
That shit's crazy. Like, what even is the point of living? Like,
they don't know. There's people who defected from North Korea who said that they've been told that the rest of the world is like a barren wasteland, and they don't know what's out there. There was one guy who escaped from a work camp because a Chinese citizen was captured in North Korea and sent to a work camp, and he told these people, like, yo, there's a whole world out there, don't you know? And they're like, no. And they were like, I will now risk anything to escape this camp because I've realized that there actually is a world out there.
Because they don't have, like, the only news they have is, like, about Kim Jong, like, saying he's the greatest. They don't have, like, music. They don't have anything. If you're caught with the movies you watch is what they tell you to watch. Like, everything is the brainwash and say, this is it. This is what it is.
That's all there is. Yeah, the world is North Korea. It's the North Koreans.
But there's people there that don't have the option. Like, if he tells you to do something, either I'm going to kill you or you're going to go out and blow yourself up for...
Not even I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your whole family, your extended family, all your cousins, all your nephews. They're all going to die. Or you do this terrible thing and sacrifice yourself. Yeah, it's terrible. That's probably what... I mean, these mercenaries who Russia's hiring, I'm sure, are not there by...
Oh, no.
By will.
Yeah, they're just saying, here, you're going here, and if you die for them, you're dying for us, too. Like,
did you hear Fisker had a North Korean spy?
No.
That worked for them for years?
No.
So North Korea wanted to like gain some knowledge about Fisker, and they wanted them to be part of a big money laundering scheme. And so they sent a North Korean national spy to go work for Fisker. Fisker hired that person unknowingly, and they worked there for a period of time. And then once they got let go for something unrelated, and they started trying to blackmail Fisker for the money and to do the laundering, which I guess was unsuccessful. But yeah, it was a whole media story recently because Fisker just went bankrupt. And that news came out that they hired a North Korean national.
Wow. Yeah.